Hey guys, so I thought I would come on and talk about stomas today because there is multiple different types of stomas and some of which hospitals wouldn't consider as a stoma. So I think it's a bit strange that not everything is considered as a stoma, even though technically they are. So for reference, a stoma is basically a opening within a wall of your body, whether it be in your chest or whether it be in your abdomen, typically usually in your abdomen, that connects an internal organ to the outside world via a bag or tube of some sort. So this isn't to basically state that anything to do with a central line is a stoma, because central lines are not stomas. So although you may have things like Hickman's, PICC lines, and ports under the skin that you can access via needles or have wires hanging out from your body, they are attached to veins, not organs. So although the tip of those things go to the bottom of the heart, it's not directly having your heart put on the outside of your body, technically. So yeah, central lines and ports, caths and things like that are not considered a stoma. So let me give you some examples of certain stomas. So when I said earlier about the chest being cut into, there is a particular stoma called an esophagostomy. Now, you may have seen people like Mr. Crohn's colitis and other people share a lady who basically can eat and drink food to taste, but it'll go into a bag that is attached to her chest. This is because the remaining part of her esophagus that goes from probably her lower part of her throat to her stomach cannot be used because of an illness or a disease, or because it's not connected, or for whatever reason. There's multiple reasons why the esophagus has to be bypassed in certain areas. So this woman has an esophagostomy, which basically means that she has a bag placed on her chest around here. So when she eats and drinks something to taste it, that will then come down the little bit of esophagus that she still has attached to her throat, and it will go into a bag which she will then empty later on. So that is what I mean by it turns an internal organ into an external device. So in her situation, her esophagus basically finishes off inside this bag and not attached to her stomach. So in order to get all of her nutrients and all of the things that she needs to survive, she will either have a different type of stoma known as a gastrostomy, or a gastrostomy with jejunal extension. So there are two other types of stoma. Although technically they'd be classed as the same one, because the internal extension that goes to the jejunum is basically inside the body. Or she'll have a jejunostomy, which basically means that her nutrients then go directly into her small intestine because her stomach can't be used. So there is multiple different types of stomas. Now, a lot of hospitals, for whatever reason, do not consider a gastrostomy or a jejunostomy as stomas. So if you only have a gastrostomy or a jejunostomy and you go into a hospital and you have a problem with it and you say, oh, my stoma is blocked, or my stoma tube is blocked, or my stoma is leaking lots of content and I need a lot of gauze to pack it, they will look at you and go, what do you mean by stoma? I've had this happen to me multiple times when I just had my GJ tube, which is obviously a gastrostomy tube with a internal jejunal extension. So I'm fed directly into my small intestine, but through a tube that goes into my stomach. So therefore, if I eat and drink anything, I can drain not only food and drinks that I consume if they make me feel sick, but I can also vent my tube, which means that any excess air or bloatedness that's in my stomach that is making me feel sick or acid reflux or anything like that can be drained from my gastric tube. Where in the lady's sense with the esophagostomy, then she basically has hers food that she eats and drinks goes straight into a bag on her chest. The other types of stomas are a loop ileostomy, a end ileostomy, a loop colostomy, or an end colostomy, or a urostomy. Now, these all attach your small intestine or your large intestine to a opening inside on the side. Can't talk. On the side of your stomach, you will have your bowel sticking out of your stomach. Same with the loop colostomy and the loop ileostomy, but in this situation, you will have your bowel basically pulled out of your stomach, and it will be partially cut in half. So the other half of your bowel would basically then loop over your abdominal wall. So therefore, you would have a distal end of bowel, whether that be on your ileum or whether that be on your colon, which isn't used, it isn't attached to anything, but it's there for a reason. Now, most loop stomas are basically there for temporary purposes, within the view of if they give things a rest for a while, they may be able to revert things back to being a whole organ again, and you could potentially reverse that stoma. However, in my situation, I have a loop colostomy. The only reason I have a loop colostomy is because they didn't want to give me a proctectomy, which basically means that they would basically remove my anus and my rectum and basically sew everything back up. They didn't want to remove the lower end of my colon because that is a massive basically it's a huge disposition. It's a massive surgery in order to do that. So they only do that in very extreme cases if things like setbacks happen. Now, I've had a few setbacks with my distal end of my colon that is not used, but the only reason I have a loop colostomy is because the rest of the colon that is there will still produce something called mucus, which your body helps to help you expel fecal matter when you go to the bathroom. In my situation, I have a mucosal prolapse and I have a very significant rectocele, which means that any mucus that still develops within that lower part of my bowel, if they'd sewed that off and basically cut it off and didn't have that distal end coming out of my stomach, it would basically trap there and I would not be able to get it out. So that's why I have the loop, so that it will help some of that mucus come out of that distal end into a bag. And obviously the other end of that stoma goes to the bathroom for me. So that is why I have a loop colostomy, and mine is classed as permanent. Now, I have developed some issues, like I have infectious colitis, I have colitis, and I also have IBD in the distal end of my colon, as well as diffuse proctitis. So I might have to go on steroid treatments and things like that when I see my specialist, because it's causing a lot of problems, including bleeding, which is not supposed to happen. So when you have a urostomy, I don't have a urostomy, but I know many people that do. A urostomy, basically they take some ileum, they attach your urethras from your kidneys to the part of the ileum, and they turn that ileum into what is classed as your new bladder, basically, and that sticks outside of your stomach like a normal stoma would do if you had an ileostomy or a colostomy. It basically sticks out of your abdomen, and that's where your urine will come out of. The same principle with a loop colostomy can be applied to an ileostomy, and for the same purposes, so that the lower part of your ileum can still be used for mucus productions and things like that, or to help with absorption. And then the end, obviously, you don't have the distal ends of your ileum or your colon there. It's just basically an end colostomy or an ileostomy, where your bowel comes out of your stomach and you don't have two ends to it, so you don't have the distal end. So if you want to know any more information about colostomies, or you want more stuff to be said, then please just message me and I'll be happy to let you know. But there is 8 to 9 different stomas for you. Have fun and see you soon.